Ex-prisoners of Reddit. What was the worst thing you saw inside the prison walls? I worked in the medical department of a large prison in Florida. We had an inmate bite a bigger inmate's nose off. The tip. The bigger guy kept asking the kid for sex and the kid had enough. We saw several stabbings. Several were life-flighted out. But those weren't the most interesting. We had an inmate smoke some bad spice. Made out of God knows what. He came to medical out of his mind and later died because it caused brain hemorrhaging. One guy got a dislocated patella and was just sitting patiently as I got his info. I asked if it hurt and he said yeah. I asked how he was so chill and he replied, because I'm not a bitch. Oh yeah. I forgot the guy that got a stick of deodorant stuck up his ass so far we had to send him out to have it surgically removed. He said he was practicing for sneaking in a cell phone, but there's a 50% chance he was using it as a dildo. Inmates were very creative with their homemade dildos. I mean, why wouldn't they just use one of the many dicks around them? Cause they ain't gay. I mean, yo, if you're straight and like to put things up your ass, I would think you would prefer something that fits up there better than a stick of deodorant. Even if it's attached to someone you don't find attractive. I'm gay and I feel like I would rather fuck a woman than a watermelon. There was talk about a guy assaulting his own daughter. Some guys made him a cup of morning coffee. Morning coffee is basically taking a kettle, pour cooking oil in it, heat it up, and add a lot of sugar and then throw it in someone's face. It was very uncomfortable to see and hear. Edit. Whoa. First comment to really blow up like this. I've noticed from these comments that when people do what you described they add large amounts of sugar. Why is that? Is it because the concoction becomes like syrup and hard to remove? Yep. Makes the boiling oil stick and burn into the skin. Almost like Molotov, benzene mixed with styrofoam, or something like that. Molotov is just a gasoline, benzene, filled bottle with a rag. Created by the Finnish to fight spite the Russian General Foreign Minister Molotov. Styro wasn't invented yet, but you can use polystyrene and acetone to make napalm in a similarly pyrotechnic way. Are you thinking of the homemade napalm? Thanks for the correction. And I think so. I just remember some guy in there telling me that Molotov cocktails were made by adding gasoline with styrofoam and other crazy stuff. Guy seemed like a Wikipedia regarding arming a riot. Not prison but jail. 6 months pregnant and her water broke. Co's didn't believe her and waited to take her to the hospital until she was hemorrhaging. The baby died and the woman was released because they didn't want to pay medical costs. This was 2004-ish. Wow. That's fucked up. They release people if it gets too expensive. It makes it so obvious how prisoners are just money/products for prisons. Yeah, we had an inmate in our county jail when I was a co that was diagnosed with a brain tumor, so they just let her out because it would have been too expensive to take care of. So yes, definitely, when they let them out due to medical condition. It is called a compassionate release. I'm a nurse who took care of a man who was released when his cancer spread after doing 18 years for nearly killing a man when he was 18 years old. Surprisingly, he was the nicest and most respectful person. He passed away about 6 months after being released. Done 11 years myself. One of the worst things I've seen is 2 members of a gang called Goodfellas, aka 40 deep, jumped on a blood on the way back from bill call. One used a large knife. The other had a fan motor in a net bag and used that as a flail. Also seen/heard multiple people being raped. A friend of mine admitted to me after a year or so that he had been actively raped every night by his roommate, a OOG from the Bloods, for about a 5-month period. There's more, just what I could think of. ATM. OOG from the Bloods. What's an OOG? A triple OG means he was one of the founders of the gang, or at least there in the beginning. Man, I used to live with a OOG blood who was out of the game. Real nice dude. Gave me his number and said if I ever needed somebody taken care of to give him a call. I believe he was cousins with Tiki Williams as well, one of the founders of the Crips. Suddenly every nerd on Reddit is going to become an expert on gangs. I've never been to prison, but my cousin did, and he came back out all sorts of messed up. He was arrested for drugs. According to him, he spent the majority of his time in solitary confinement. for his safety. He said that his first couple of months there were okay, as far as prison goes. But that one day, for whatever reason some guy who had been kept separate from the general population was accidentally put with the rest of the prisoners, unsupervised, and that a few prisoners grabbed the guy and that they stomped on his elbows and legs to break them before they sodomized him with some shivs. My cousin said that those guys did it all in an instant and that they threatened him if he snitched. My cousin was later interviewed by some of the guards before they took the guys who did this, and so some thought that he had snitched. He says that he didn't, but that didn't matter because the guards had put him in solitary for safety and was eventually kept there for months longer because he wouldn't snitch, so they tried to accuse him of being an accomplice. That would fuck me up. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Co's put you in ISO for being a part of it, according to them. While prisoners think you're in ISO to hide from them, cops pull that shit on the outside too. Look up hindering prosecution. I spent 8 years in prison. In the state of Georgia, there was a guy who made a hustle of hiding illegal cell phones for the Mexican gangs. When a shakedown/search occurred, this man was responsible for the loss of many of those cell phones. He was confronted on the yard and tried to escape by climbing the fence. He got stuck in the razor wire, shredding his forearms, while 7 or 8 Mexican gang members were stabbing him all in the back of his legs and his ass. That's the gang mentality that I find to be the most bullshit. You tell this guy to hold on to these phones for cigs or whatever. He agrees. You then proceed to give him way more contraband than he could possibly hide. It gets found. He's probably getting time in the hole. The Mexicans get off scot-free, but they still want revenge on the guy. Mob mentality is the worst thing about any group, and that's a fact. None of us are as stupid as all of us. I'd never heard it put like that, but it's brilliant. I spent 2 weeks awaiting trial in Johannesburg Central Prison. Saw a guy with mental issues get severely beaten one night after he attacked another inmate. Saw another guy have a kettle of boiling water poured over him another evening after an argument with another prisoner. In both cases the wardens did nothing until the following morning. I was lucky. I managed to avoid any issues while I was there. Overall a crappy experience. 0 tenths. Would not recommend. Seeing someone on the threes jump to his death. Just missing PPL on the deck. Saw a guy try to kill himself. The block only had 2 tiers. He walked up the stairs and the phones were right at the top. He grabbed the hook and used it to climb on top of the phone with the side railing. He then leaned over the rail holding the hook and fell back. He just broke his back and did the rest of his bid/life in a wheelchair. Life with an extra dose of fuck you. That's wild. I spent 6 years in prison. 1 month in I watched a Crip on Crip gang stabbing. They stabbed the guy 60+ times while he was curled up in a ball screaming help, but nobody could because you'd be a target next. He somehow survived, but I couldn't tell you how. I think about it every day. Random question. In movies/TV, they often depict people in a situation where they are forced to take sides, join a gang, or forced to participate in other crimes. How accurate is this? Suppose I went to prison, but I wanted to mind my own business, like stay in my cell, read books, talk to my cellmate, eat my food, etc. Stay out of gang stuff, don't pick sides, etc. How easy is it to just mind your own business? That's what I did. I also found the other unaffiliated guys, and it seemed like we all tended to have a similar mindset. It's also important to note you have guys in prison who are criminals, and you have people who made mistakes. I'm a guy who made a big mistake. I was asked to join gangs, but just said no. Relatively quickly through good behavior I was able to go to what they call an annex in Tennessee. It's minimum security. At that point even gang affiliations mostly don't matter. It was just guys like myself trying to get home. Yep, just trying to get the fuck out of there. No reason to cause trouble when you're out in a couple months, or whatever. It's the people who are in there for so long it doesn't matter to them anymore about what drove me. Getting the fuck out of there as fast as possible. My uncle was in for 17 years for marijuana-related charges. He was in a wood with 2 other guys with the same name as him. Both of them in for 7 years. One of them killed a guy and the other was a child molester. One day when my uncle was in the showers, a group of guys who mistaken him as a child molester were about to serve prison justice on the wrong guy. He quickly realized the situation, sprinted naked out the showers to grab his papers to show the guys they have the wrong dude. 17 years for marijuana and 7 years for molesting a child. That's fucked up. I got 28 MO for bad checks, locked up with a girl who had 18 MO for vehicular homicide while intoxicated. Logic. Fuck the us system. Pretty much. We were both white females. I was broke and mentally ill. She was rich. Money talks. I made a friend early on who was sentenced to life for killing a man that had touched his niece. He'd been locked up for about 5 or 6 years when I'd first met him. Talked to him every day for 3 years, and one day he comes up to me and says he needs to talk to me about something. We do a lap on the back 40 and he tells me his old lady is leaving him and isn't bringing his daughter up to come see him anymore. He's actually crying. I didn't know what I could do to help him, so I let him cry and told him to not let it bother him. Maybe she'll come around. We go on about our day and everything seems normal. That night he woke me up. He bunked across the hall, crying. I got up to talk to him, and he says he wants to die, and that he's glad I'm up, because he doesn't want to be alone. I start hitting the panic button for my cell, and screaming for a guard, but no one comes, and I have to watch while he pries his mirror off of his wall. He put on his linens and blanket like a big robe, and he cuts his stomach with his mirror. It was hard to see much, because of the blankets and the dark, but I could smell his blood. Then he lit his blankets on fire. The coast got there when the smoke alarm went off, but they were too late. I still have nightmares about it, screaming for him to stop, to just talk it out, but he never does. I've seen a lot of fucked up shit, man, but this was probably the worst, or at least it stuck with me the longest. Edit. Thanks for the hugs and support, everyone. Makes how I feel after sharing hurt a little less. I appreciate it. Damn. I'm sorry, dude. That's rough. Thanks. I still dream about him sometimes. Not that specific moment. More often that we are just playing cards, or working out, or playing handball. He was a good friend. We'd give each other food on shitty chow hall days, and one of us was broke. Or if one of us was low on deodorant or soap, we'd help each other. I taught him how to play chess, and he taught me cribbage and hearts. I'm truly sorry that happened to you as well as your friend. Honestly, my dad was in and out of prison my entire life until he died, and he thankfully wasn't ever caught and sent away for beating the piss out of one of the men responsible for hurting me when I was 5. He chased one of them off successfully, and he never came back. But sometimes I wonder if this would have been his fate had he not held back from killing him. It honestly wouldn't surprise me to find out he had killed one of those men. And I'm grateful he never found out it wasn't just that one man but a handful. I'm positive it wouldn't have ended well for him or any of them. Sorry, off track here. I just wanted to thank you for being a good friend to that man, especially in his darkest hours. There was nothing you could have possibly done to prevent it or stop it. What matters is that you were some small comfort in the end, even if he was selfish as fuck to put you through that and traumatize you the rest of your life. They rarely ever consider the possibility that all they do in that moment is shove their pain and darkness off onto you. I held my father in my arms as he died. It was his choice to go out that way and I couldn't stop it. What got me through it was actively forgiving him in the moment and telling him to go and be at peace, to not be in pain anymore. Try to do that for your friend. Try to forgive him for what he did to you that night. Not for him, but for yourself and your own peace the rest of your life. I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. I'll be honest. For myself, I never really was upset about him doing that in front of me. It hurt to see him do it, to hear it, smell it, absolutely, but mostly I was just sad that he was gone. That he hurt that badly, that he didn't just want to die, but to destroy himself entirely. He was worth so much more than that. I wish things had gone different. But who would he have been later? 5 years, 10, 20 down the road after his daughter became a distant memory. His wife remarried. Is he happier dead than he'd have been alive? I just don't know. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more videos.